think that, oh, anger is really bad. You know, it causes people to get into fights and become verbally abusive towards one another, and it's really not a good thing. So, but today I'm going to be presenting to you, I guess, also some of the benefits of actually having this this emotion, what is underneath the emotion of anger that prompts it to come up, and also some steps in terms of, well, how do you actually let go of anger and find or utilize it in a resourceful way. So let's get into this. The first thing that I want to share with you is that anger is an emotion, and emotions come up, all emotions come up from an interpretation of what's happening around you. So firstly, so this comes from CBT, that there is a trigger, then after the trigger there is a thought that happens. So something happens, you know, there's a bell that goes off, or someone cuts you off on your way to work. So there's a trigger. After that, there is a cognitive process, a thought process, in terms of, well, what does that actually mean for me, right? And depending on how you actually think about the situation is how you then go on and feel about the situation. So, for instance, using that same example of being cut off on your way to work, you actually have a choice in terms of how you choose to respond and feel about that scenario, how you choose to think about it. So, for instance, if you were, say, cut off and you choose to get really angry about it, oh, how dare they cut me off like that? They don't know how to drive. Oh my God, I could have been hurt, right? So that's the thought process going through your mind. And that elicits that anger response. That elicits that kind of, you know, that kind of energy. Whereas if we think about exactly the same scenario, but you choosing to think differently about it, then what's more likely to happen is that you're going to choose different feelings. So let's take that same scenario. You get cut off in the morning, you're on your way to work, okay? Instead of reacting in the how dare they kind of thing, what if you were to think about, oh, geez, lucky that didn't cause an accident. Or, oh, geez, I hope they're all right. I saw kids in the back. Or, wow, I hope they don't get a ticket. Or, geez, they're in a hurry, right? Or, yes, some people just need to improve some of their driving skills or plan a little bit better, right? So see how that thinking elicits a different kind of emotional reaction, particularly in your body, right? Anger is the language of the body, whereas thinking is the language of the mind. So when we think differently, then we actually feel differently also. Now, with anger, or actually with all emotions, there are different extremes of the emotions. So it's not just, you know, I'm angry or I have anger, I'm experiencing anger or not. There's a kind of like a scale of anger, right? And so with anger, you know, in its extreme, you have fury and rage like that. Think of the Hulk, right? But in the lowest form, or in the less severe form, you have you know, it being kind of like, you know what, such and such said, you know, it really irritated me, right? Or it's like being just a little bit peeved off, you know, not liking the situation, not liking that. And so it's kind of like, you know, or even being frustrated, right? I'm in traffic, I have to get there. Oh, I hope I'm not going to be late to that interview or that meeting. So anger doesn't have to be, you know, this huge kind of feeling of anger and rage. It can actually be expressed also in those lower levels of just being a little bit peeved off, or, you know, exasperated. Because often when I talk to people, and in the therapy room, I utilize this process that releases negative emotions, so unwanted emotions. And whenever I ask about anger, I always get the same response. Oh, Monica, I'm just not an angry person. I'm not an angry person. And the key here is to dissociate yourself from the emotion that you're feeling. So yes, you might not be an angry person, but I'm sure that you've been pissed off once or twice in your life, right? I'm sure that you've been irritated by something, or cross or annoyed, at the situation. I'm absolutely sure of it. Everyone experiences this emotion. It is natural, it's normal. But where the tricky part is that when it becomes unresourceful and detriment to self, that's then the key that you need to do something about it. Okay? So, to get a further and deeper understanding of anger, the reason why anger in the therapy room is always addressed first is that commonly it can be a mask for other emotions. Okay, it can be a vehicle of expressing other emotions. So what do I mean by that? Well, anger can be a protective resource, okay, from you experiencing other unwanted emotions, like hurt or shame or even sadness. And so commonly, if I can give you an example, if we talk about anxiety and fear, right? Anger is the perfect way to avoid fearing a certain situation. So if you think about maybe you know someone, or maybe this is you yourself, who likes to have everything in order and likes to be in control of the situation, right? And if they're not in control of the situation, well, then sometimes they just lose it. All right, I get really frustrated and enraged. It's like, oh, I told you to do X, Y, Z and you haven't done it. So they fly off, or become really, really frustrated that, hey, I was meant to do this today and it wasn't done because, somebody sidetracked me or there was other competing demands. So in this case, anger, the expression of anger, can be a mask for fear, for anxiety, for feeling vulnerable, for not having things under your control, or interpreting it that way. We always have control and influence over ourselves. So in this case, anger can be a mask for experiencing the emotion of fear and being anxious about the future. So not feeling like you're in control either of yourself or your environment. So it can be a mask. So it can also be a mask for other emotions, like this feeling of powerlessness, right? So or feeling a victim to your environment. So something has happened, okay, and anger can be the vehicle or can be that thing that actually makes you speak up, that makes you do something, that makes you resolve the issue. So this is a perfect example of how anger can actually be a resourceful emotion, because everybody knows or knows of those people who are really quiet, right? Those mouse-like people who they don't say boo about anything. They always seem very calm, always diligent, hardworking, and just like, oh well, that's the way it is. And nothing really seems to kind of bother them, right? And the thing is, though, that there are always things or people or situations that are going to rub up against your values and your belief systems. And it's when you feel super strongly about those values and beliefs and your own morals, which everybody does. It's not something like I just believe this happens. It's like, no, this is, right? So yeah, you just have this belief that it is, wrong to litter, okay? Or it's, wrong to smack your kids, regardless of whether it is or not. That's not a debate. But it demonstrates that when you feel really, really strongly about something, it's 100% related to your own values, morals, and beliefs. Okay. And so when something comes up against those morals, values, or beliefs, when that is challenged, when that is triggered, those people who, like I said before, they don't say boo, and they're very easygoing and diligent and things like that. It's during that time that they become triggered in their morals, values, or beliefs, that they can summon the anger, from being triggered, and standing up going, no, that's not happening here. Absolutely not. No way. You have no right to do that. Okay? You think of, a mother at a playground. Okay? A mum at the playground, she's come with her kids, having fun and everything, and seems like, it's a beautiful day and everything's going well. And you look at this mum, and she's beautiful and kind-hearted, and you can see that she's so loving towards her kids and so caring. And you can kind of feel it too. You're like, oh, isn't that beautiful? Right? But the moment another child or even another parent interferes in some way, whether, coming over and handling the child or speaking downly or something like that, then that triggers within her something that says, hey, this is not right. And you see a march over, what's going on here? Yeah? And quite clearly cross and annoyed at the situation. Right? And so that anger of the morals and the values of being crossed, of coming up against them, that has caused this rise of anger, okay, and also this rise of the incentive to actually go and do something about it and to resolve the issue. And so during those times, anger can be very, very resourceful to actually regain your power back and to resolve the situation. So another way that anger can be expressed, or a way that anger comes up is as a protective mechanism. Okay, it can be a protective mechanism to avoid other feelings that feel worse than feeling anger. And those feelings are things like embarrassment and hurt, right? So feeling even shame, or feeling humiliated, or feeling, like rejected from someone, right? It can contribute to lashing out at that person, yeah? So, if you've ever seen someone who's been picked on over and over again, and maybe they're going red in the face, and they've got their head down, and it's like they keep taking it until suddenly it's like they explode with anger, right? It's because they don't want to feel that heaviness of the emotion of embarrassment, of hurt, of shame. They don't want to feel that anymore. And so that anger then generates a way of stopping that, of covering that up, of switching it around, into one that is of action, one that is to get away from those other heavy emotions and to cover it up as well, so they don't have to feel it anymore. And so it can be, anger can be clearly a resourceful emotion, and it can also be an unresourceful emotion, or it can be a way, like a stepping stone that you can move through to get actually a different result. And so next, I've got 3 steps for you to release or to get rid of that emotion of anger. And really, it's one of those things where, firstly, number one is that you have to actually acknowledge the emotions that you're feeling. You have to acknowledge that, hey, I'm actually feeling angry right now. I'm feeling frustrated or annoyed, or, this person said this, or they done that and that. And it's, it's quite frustrating because I've already given them instructions of what to do. And they keep asking and asking the same thing over and over again. So the first step to getting rid of unwanted anger, it's different if you do want it, if it helps you in some way. But when you want to get rid of anger, the first thing that you do is you have to acknowledge and recognize the feelings that you are feeling. And then step 2 goes into, after you've recognized the feeling, it's like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty pissed off right now. It's recognizing, well, why are you feeling pissed off? Why are you feeling angry? Why are you feeling irritated by this situation? And usually I tell people to avoid asking why questions. But in this case, I think asking a why question will help you realize and come to terms with, is it really anger that you're feeling? Yeah. So why am I feeling like this? It's like, well, yeah, because that person has just called me, or has called me or put a label on me, and that simply isn't true, right? It's simply not true. And so that first emotion that comes up could be anger or could be irritation. But when you look at the situation more, you can see that underneath that, there might be a feeling of actual hurt. Yeah, there might be a feeling of being hurt or rejected. It's like, well, they called me this or that, and it's like, I don't deserve being called. I'm not that name. So there can be that feeling of being offended too. Yeah, and so then the next step is, once you've recognized what you're actually feeling, and you've asked why you're feeling that, and recognizing if there are other emotions underneath that, then it's actually time to do something about it, right? It's time to do something about it. And then you go into that problem-solving mode of exploring all the different options that are available to you. What can I do to resolve this, right? What can I do to resolve this? Sometimes it's just not worth saying anything. It's like, yeah, they think this. Yeah, whatever. Thanks. Yeah. Sometimes it's not worth saying anything. Other times, yeah, absolutely it is. Absolutely. It's an opportunity to set your boundaries. It's an opportunity to tell people how to treat you and how to treat you with respect. It's a time to assert your power, over yourself and your authority over the situation. And other times it's just about letting it go. Yeah. So, it's about acknowledging that, yes, this emotion did come up, and then releasing it in whatever way you release it best for you. So, it could be releasing it through talking to someone, getting on the phone to a friend or your mum. Oh, this person said this, and I'm so frustrated, and blah, 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 right? And then you just let it go because you've vented. It could be that you go for a walk, or that you do some breathing exercises to get rid of that emotion. Yeah. Or, even writing a letter to someone that you never send it. Maybe you write a really nasty letter as a way of you venting and getting it out, but then you throw it away or shred it or burn it or however you choose to do that. And obviously, there's that other option of also setting boundaries. If somebody has contravened those boundaries, if someone has contravened your values, and educating them appropriately about how you actually want to be treated. So they're the 3 steps. So recognizing what you're feeling, first and foremost, asking why it's coming up, and seeing if there's any emotions underneath that? And lastly, what can I do about it? So what are those problem solving resources that you can utilize to come up with some options for yourself so you can release that anger? And obviously thinking about if you're struggling with anger, or even if you're actually struggling with anxiety as well, yeah, because obviously anger can be a cover and a mask for anxiety, or struggling with that sense of kind of inferiority, yeah, if you're part of a new group, or just feeling like you're always the odd one out, then then I would say that therapy can definitely be useful to you to actually resolve or come to terms with the situation that you're being presented with. Sometimes anger can present itself to people quite quickly, like that, because they've conditioned themselves to use anger as a coping mechanism over and over and over. And that's the same with anxiety and fear. When you experience it over and over again, it becomes super accessible. You develop neural pathways in the brain that makes it so accessible that it just comes up without you believing that you're actually thinking about it. And so if that's you, and if that's something that you struggle with, then please contact me. I have a program that helps release emotions step by step, and from the past, so that you can be free to experience and be free of those emotions and those events and those potential traumas as well that have occurred in the past. So you're not having to revisit and re-experience those emotions continually in the future. So if that's you, please contact me. There's a link below, and I trust that these steps have been helpful to you to resolve any unresourceful anger or emotion. So it's bye from me from now. All right, take care.